All right, so are you ready to dive into learning styles today?
Yeah, always fascinated by this stuff.
You sent over some super interesting material on student archetypes,
Yeah.
and I'm like so curious to unpack it all with you and see
Mhm.
what we can learn from it.
Sounds good.
Um, who doesn't want to unlock their inner learning genius, right?
Absolutely. I,
Right.
I think what we often forget is that, we spend so much time focusing on what to learn
Right.
that we kind of neglect the how.
Yeah,
The how is so important.
it is.
Understanding our learning styles, I think, can be just as crucial for success as knowing what we need to know.
Absolutely. And this piece does such a good job
Yeah.
of breaking it down into these five types:
Hmm.
the procrastinator, the perfectionist,
Yeah.
the natural genius, the social butterfly, and the hard worker.
Yeah. Love these.
It is so relatable. I mean, I
I'm
see myself in a few of
Oh,
these,
sure.
but we're not just gonna like label ourselves and call it a day. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm a procrastinator, so
That's
like we want to go deeper, right? Like,
so
what are the nuances of each type?
for sure.
What are the hidden challenges? And most importantly,
Yeah.
like, how can we use this knowledge to
Right.
actually become more effective learners?
Exactly. And I find it fascinating that we can borrow strategies
Oh, yeah.
from other types, even if we don't identify with them on the surface.
Hmm.
So it's like expanding your learning toolkit
I like that.
with tools that may not be your go-to, but could be super useful in certain situations.
Yeah. Okay, let's kick things off with a type that I think we all know a little too well:
Okay.
the procrastinator.
Oh.
The last minute scramble, the adrenaline fueled all nighter.
Oh, yeah,
Been there, done that, got the t shirt.
for sure.
But what's really going on underneath the surface? Like,
Yeah.
why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, it's not just laziness,
Okay.
although I'm sure we've all used that excuse at some point or another.
Oh, for sure.
Procrastination is often linked to deeper psychological mechanisms. For some, it's a fear of failure disguised as apathy.
Right.
For others, it's perfectionism in disguise. If I never start, I can't mess it up, right?
That's so true. And I've caught myself doing that,
Mm.
delaying tasks because I'm afraid of not meeting my own like ridiculously high standards.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from this procrastination cycle?
Right.
The source mentions this 5-minute rule,
Okay.
which sounds almost deceptively simple.
It is. It might seem like a gimmick, but there's actually solid cognitive science behind it.
Okay.
It's all about overcoming that initial inertia.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains tend to overestimate the effort required for a task,
Right.
especially when we're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But committing to just 5 minutes kind of lowers that barrier to entry.
Right.
And often that's all it takes to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Once you're engaged, you're more likely to keep going.
It's like tricking your brain into productivity.
Exactly.
That's actually quite clever.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it that way before. And the source also talks about breaking down tasks into smaller steps.
Yes.
Is that based on a similar principle?
Exactly. Large tasks can trigger our fight or flight response,
Interesting.
making us want to avoid them altogether.
Okay.
But by dividing a project into manageable chunks,
Right.
we kind of reduce the perceived threat.
Okay.
Each step feels less daunting,
Mm-hmm.
and we get the satisfaction of checking things off our list,
Right.
which releases dopamine and motivates us to continue.
It's like that feeling of accomplishment
Exactly.
when you finally conquer that towering to-do list,
Yeah. Yeah.
one item at a time.
One by one.
Speaking of to-do lists, what about the idea of setting personal deadlines?
Oh.
Even before the official due date, does that actually work?
It can be incredibly effective, especially for chronic procrastinators.
Okay.
By creating artificial urgency, you're essentially tapping into your brain's natural response to deadlines.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to be more focused and efficient when we know the clock is ticking. And by setting those deadlines yourself, you regain a sense of control over your schedule.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our next student type, the perfectionist.
Okay.
Now, on the surface, they might seem like the ideal student, always striving for excellence, turning in flawless work.
Right.
But this piece suggests that there's a hidden downside to this relentless pursuit of perfection.
Absolutely. And it's something I've observed in countless students. While striving for excellence is commendable, perfectionism taken to an extreme can become paralyzing.
Wow.
The fear of making mistakes, of not being good enough,
Yeah.
can lead to procrastination anxiety and even a diminished sense of accomplishment.
So it's like they're so focused on the flaws that they miss the bigger picture, the
Precisely.
progress they've actually made.
Exactly, and that's why it's crucial to reframe the definition of success.
Okay.
It's not about achieving flawlessness,
Yeah.
which is often an unattainable ideal.
Right.
It's about progress, growth, and effort.
I like that.
And sometimes good enough is truly good enough,
Yeah.
especially when it allows you to move forward and tackle new challenges.
I can see how that shift in perspective could be incredibly liberating,
Yeah,
especially for someone who gets bogged down in the pursuit of perfection.
absolutely.
So what are some practical strategies that can help perfectionists find this balance?
Right.
The source mentions setting time limits for tasks.
Yes, that's a key technique.
Okay.
Perfectionists tend to get lost in the details,
Right.
spending hours on tasks that could be completed in a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
By setting a time limit,
Mm-hmm.
you force yourself to prioritize and make decisions more efficiently.
Makes sense.
It also helps break the cycle of overthinking and overanalyzing.
It's like setting boundaries for your brain,
Exactly.
preventing it from going down those endless rabbit holes of perfection.
Right.
What other techniques does the piece suggest?
Another crucial strategy is learning to prioritize tasks strategically.
Okay.
Not everything requires the same level of meticulous attention. Right. Recognizing which tasks truly benefit from your perfectionist tendencies
Mm-hmm.
and which ones could be completed to a good enough standard can be a game changer for both your productivity and your well-being.
This actually reminds me of a time when I was working on a presentation.
Oh, I'd love to hear about it. Welcome back.
You know, I'm still thinking about that presentation.
yeah.
Hours I spent tweaking it, and it was already like, fine.
It's so easy to get caught up in that.
It is. It's like that need for everything to be perfect.
It often stems from a fear of judgment
Yeah.
or a need for external validation.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, because it's like we're trying to prove something through
Yeah.
our work,
Exactly.
but it can backfire.
Absolutely.
Like we were saying before, it can hinder our progress.
Yeah, it's about shifting that focus
Okay.
from external validation to internal satisfaction.
I like that. All right, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about the natural genius. We talked about how these individuals, you know, they might coast through early education,
Yeah.
but then hit a wall when they encounter more challenging material.
Right.
So what are some learning strategies
Okay.
that can help them navigate those rough waters?
One technique that comes to mind is active recall.
Okay.
Now, you might be familiar with this concept,
Mm-hmm.
but it's essentially about actively retrieving information from memory
Okay.
rather than passively reviewing it.
So instead of just rereading notes, you're actually trying to recall the information without looking?
Precisely. And there's a reason this works so well.
Okay.
When you actively retrieve information, you're strengthening the neural pathways
Interesting.
associated with that memory,
Mm-hmm.
making it more accessible in the long run.
So it's like you're giving your brain a workout.
That's a great analogy,
Yeah,
pushing it to flex those memory muscles.
I like that. And what about spaced repetition?
Spaced repetition is another powerful technique,
Yeah.
particularly for retaining information over time.
Is it about reviewing material at specific intervals?
You got it. The idea is to space out your review sessions,
Okay.
gradually increasing the time between each review.
Right.
This helps combat the forgetting curve
Okay.
and ensures that information is encoded into long-term memory.
So it's like sending your brain little reminders, hey, remember this.
Exactly.
It's still important.
Exactly. And for those who are more visually inclined, concept mapping can be a game changer.
Oh, yeah, concept mapping.
Yeah, it involves creating visual representations of information,
Okay.
highlighting connections and relationships between different concepts.
Like a mind map.
Exactly, like turning abstract ideas into a mental map,
Yeah,
making it easier to see the bigger picture.
I like that. All right, let's go back to the social butterfly for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about the importance of time management and focus for this type.
Right.
But are there any other strategies that can help them thrive in an academic setting?
One thing that can be incredibly helpful is creating a dedicated study space.
A dedicated study space.
Yeah, a space that's free from distractions and interruptions,
Right.
where they can signal to their brain, okay, it's time to focus.
It's like a mental on-off switch.
Exactly. And this can be particularly beneficial for social butterflies
Yeah.
who are easily drawn into social interactions.
That's a good point. What about scheduling social time?
Oh, that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah.
It's all about intentional planning,
Right.
ensuring that both social and academic needs are met
Mm-hmm.
without one overshadowing the other.
Like a balanced ecosystem.
Precisely, and finally, don't underestimate the power of accountability.
Okay.
Having study buddies or joining study groups can provide that extra nudge
Yeah.
of motivation and support.
It's like a built-in cheer squad.
Exactly. And it taps into their natural inclination for social interaction,
Right.
turning it into an asset for learning.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the hard worker.
All right?
We discussed the idea of working smarter, not just harder.
Yes.
So, are there any specific tips for making that a reality?
One key aspect is understanding your peak productivity times.
Peak productivity times.
Yeah, when are you most alert and focused?
Oh, that's so important. I'm definitely a morning person.
Okay.
Like, trying to study late at night is just a recipe for disaster.
I hear you. And once you identify those peak times,
Yeah.
you can structure your study sessions accordingly,
Okay.
maximizing your efficiency.
It's like harnessing the power of your natural rhythms.
Exactly. And another crucial strategy is prioritization.
Prioritization. Okay.
What are the most important or urgent tasks on your to-do list?
That makes sense. So you're not feeling scattered and overwhelmed.
You nailed it. And sometimes it's about recognizing when to delegate or ask for help.
Oh, that's a good point.
Hard workers often take on too much,
Right.
thinking they have to do it all themselves.
But it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help.
Absolutely. It's a
Mm.
sign of strength and strategic thinking.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing your limits and leveraging the strengths of others
Okay.
to achieve a common goal.
Now, before we move on to the concept of the ultimate student, I have a question.
Oh, weird.
We've been talking about these types as if they're these distinct categories.
Right.
But in reality, don't most of us fall somewhere on a spectrum?
That's a brilliant observation.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. These archetypes are not meant to be rigid boxes.
Okay.
In fact, most of us are a blend of these different types.
So it's more about recognizing the dominant patterns in our learning approach?
Precisely.
Okay.
And then using that awareness to develop personalized strategies.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's about understanding our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And then drawing from the diverse toolkit we've explored
Right.
to create a learning approach that truly works for us.
It's amazing how much goes into learning, right?
Yeah, it's more than just, books and lectures.
Exactly. And this whole idea that most of us are a blend of these different learning styles,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of liberating in a way
It is.
because it means we're not stuck in one box,
Absolutely. And it brings us to this concept of the ultimate student.
Oh, yeah. The ultimate student.
It sounds kind of mythical, doesn't it?
It does. Is it like some sort of academic superhero?
In a way, yes. But it's not about having some superpower.
Okay.
It's about understanding how to assemble a team of strengths,
Okay.
drawing from the best qualities of each student type.
I like that. So it's not about fitting into a single category,
Exactly.
but more like creating a personalized blend.
Precisely.
So if we were building our ultimate student,
Yes.
where would we even start?
Well, let's think about the strengths of each type
Okay.
and how they could complement each other.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay, so we can't forget about the procrastinator, right?
Oh, the procrastinator, the master of the last-minute hustle.
Exactly. They might drive us crazy with their deadlines,
Oh, for sure.
but they have this incredible ability to focus under pressure.
That's true. When the clock is ticking, they get things done.
Precisely. And think about how that complements someone like the perfectionist.
Okay, yeah. The perfectionist who's all about the details.
Yes, they might not thrive in a time crunch,
Right.
but their meticulous attention ensures quality and precision.
And what about the natural genius?
The natural genius, they make it look so easy.
They do, but we talked about how they sometimes need to develop those structured study habits.
Right. But their ability to grasp concepts quickly, to see the big picture,
Mm-hmm.
that's invaluable.
And the social butterfly.
Oh, they bring so much to the table.
They do. They might not always be the most focused in solo study sessions,
True.
but their collaborative skills, their ability to build those relationships.
Mm-hmm. That's essential for a supportive learning environment.
And they remind us that learning doesn't have to be a solitary thing.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to ask for help.
Which brings us to the hard worker.
The epitome of dedication.
They might not always have the same natural advantages,
Right.
but their perseverance is so inspiring,
Absolutely. They're the ones who just keep pushing forward.
no matter what.
Exactly. So if we combine all these qualities, the focus of the procrastinator, the precision of the perfectionist,
The insight of the natural genius.
the collaboration of the social butterfly, and the perseverance of the hard worker.
Wow, that's like a dream team of learners.
It is this ultimate student isn't just about memorization or test taking.
Right.
They're adaptable, resourceful, and ready for any challenge.
And the best part is, this isn't some unattainable ideal.
You got it. These qualities are within all of us,
It's about figuring out which ones we already have.
and which ones we need to nurture.
I love that. So it's not about becoming someone else.
Yeah.
It's about becoming the best version of ourselves
Precisely.
as learners.
Exactly. This has been so eye-opening.
It's fascinating, isn't it,
Even
to see how much goes into creating effective learning?
Absolutely. So, to our listeners out there,
Yes.
think about your own learning journey. What are your strengths? What are your challenges?
What strategies work best for you?
And remember, the goal isn't to fit yourself into a box.
It's about understanding your unique learning process and embracing the tools that help you succeed.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes, learning should be an adventure.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.